All set? All right, good afternoon. We're here for our regular crime briefing. This one will be a little different because we're going to give a crime briefing, but since we just had the official start of summer, we're also going to talk about what our plans are in the city of Albany for addressing violence, gun violence, quality of life issues during our summer months. And so I have with me today members of the Detective Office for the City of Albany's Police Department. Got the Deputy Chief of Operations, Vince Foley. Got Commander Nora Harrington, and I also have Commander Chris Cornell with us, and also representing our federal part of our federal partnerships that we have. I have FBI Special Agent in Charge Craig Tremaroli and ATF of New York Acting Assistant Special Agent in Charge Mark Meets, and they will talk about how our federal partners are helping the city of Albany, not just now, but how they've helped us in the past in addressing violence in our city. So to start off with, here's just a snapshot of where we are so far this year, year to date in some of our major categories. And as you can see in our property crimes are down significantly compared to last year, particularly with our motor vehicle thefts. And that's significant because what we found 2 or 3 years ago is that a lot of our major crimes, a lot of our violence, a lot of our shootings, they were being committed with vehicles that were reported as stolen. And so it was a priority of ours of addressing the motor vehicle theft issue in order to help to mitigate some of the pressures that we were seeing with some of our violent crimes. So we're very pleased to see that type of progress in that area. And overall, total Part 1 crimes, those are our violent crimes and our property crimes combined. Our numbers are down 17% compared to last year at this time. And when we look at our gun violence, our shootings, and the data is mixed as it was last time we had our crime briefing. You know, our shooting victims are up, and we've had 4 more shooting victims this year compared to last year at this time. Our shooting incidents are up over 40%. You can see our homicides are flat from last year, and you can see our gun arrests and guns fired. Now, what's interesting for us about this whole, when we look at this and we examine this and we do a deeper dive into this, is as you can see, our confirmed shots fired are actually down from last year. So we have fewer overall shootings, but more of those shootings have resulted in shooting incidents. In other words, more of those shootings have involved someone getting shot. So what that tells us is that that's an indicator that these shootings that we're seeing are more targeted type shootings. Because as you can see, last year at this time, we had 73 shootings, but only 31 victims. This year, we have fewer shootings, but more victims. Those fewer shootings that we're seeing are resulting in more victims, an indicator that the shootings are more targeted. And that's something that we've talked about since the beginning of this year, particularly with our homicides in the interpersonal nature of some of those. And we're starting to see that trend carry over into some of our non-fatal shootings that we're seeing in the city. And our gun recoveries are just off the charts right now. You know, we're more than double where we were last year. And to put that into perspective, if you look back 2 or 3 years ago, the total amount of gun recoveries were right around 100, a little bit over 100, and we've eclipsed that already, and we're not even halfway through the year. So men and women of the department are working with our partners, both the local level and the federal level, to address this issue of taking these illegally possessed weapons off the streets that have been harming and causing trauma and other violence in our community. And so now I'll turn this over to Deputy Chief Vince Foley to talk about some notable cases that we've seen, as well as some strategies that we put in place internally to address violence and quality of life issues in the city.
Good afternoon. Before I get into the arrest, I just want to first talk about our officers last week during the extreme heat and weather conditions that we experienced. That puts an extreme taxing. It's probably not perceived that it's taxing to the police department, but heat waves and big storms, that taxes our manpower pretty significantly. And I just want to commend our officers for where they handled themselves last week through all that adversity. Moving into the notable arrests here, we did make an arrest for criminal possession of a weapon and resisting arrest. On Friday, the 21st, individual, 18-year-old, walked into probation, handed his fanny pack to the security officer and proceeded to his appointment. The security officer felt what he believed to be a handgun within the bag. He confirmed that, and then we responded and ultimately ended up fighting with the suspect within probation, and he was charged with possession of the weapon, which was a Glock 9mm, and also resisting arrest. Also on Friday, we made an arrest for a rape third case of a 45-year-old male of Albany who was accused of and arrested for engaging in sexual intercourse with a victim 15 years of age over a course of a month earlier in the year. Oh, is that me? Oh, I got it. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Just left click. Left click. All right, there we go. On Thursday of the last week, the 20th, we executed a search warrant up on Hudson Avenue, and as a result of that search warrant, we made the arrest of Javier Martinez Reyes, a 27-year-old male, and Marco Reyes Lopez, a 24-year-old male, for their involvement in the homicide of an individual on June 3rd at the corner of in the 400 block of Washington Avenue. Both those parties were charged with murder second and gang assault first. That investigation is ongoing. On 6/20, our crew unit, which are the community response unit or our narcotics unit, executed a search warrant on Dove Street. And as a result of that search warrant, we made an arrest of Omar Martin, 51-year-old male, who was arrested for possession of a weapon. It was a Brightco 380 semi-automatic handgun, as well as a quantity of narcotics. Patrol was able to make an arrest on the 19th, actually, in regards to a commercial burglary series that was occurring down at U-Haul. Two individuals, one 31-year-old male by name Nakhel Rouse and a 30-year-old male by Alim Muhammad, were both arrested that evening for their involvement in two burglaries that occurred at U-Haul 139 Broadway on the 19th and on June 1st. On June 18th, we were able to arrest Avi Jackson, 31-year-old male of Schenectady, in regards to an attempted murder in a domestic incident in which he intentionally ran over his father in the area of Clinton and Lark on March 28th. We were able to apprehend Mr. Jackson with the assistance of the United States Marshal Service. And I didn't get to him. There he is. And then on June 16th, patrol responded to 542 Central Avenue, which is now the Buy Right shop. It used to be the Stort's Corner, a stop right at the corner of Central and Manning. In regards to a robbery in progress, upon entering the store, they came across Stephen Kirkley, 31-year-old male of Albany, who was attempting to rob the store with a lighter that appeared to be a revolver, demanding cigarettes. And if he did not get his cigarettes, he threatened to shoot the clerk there. As far as our homicides go, we continue to make progress in all the homicides within the city of Albany that happened over the past several years. We're currently at 86% closure rate. This year, we have closed 7 of 8. Last year, we have 17 of the 18 homicides closed. As you can see, the national closure rate is 50%. I expect some more closures in the very near future as our detective's office continues to work on these on a daily basis. So it's moving forward. A lot of times we talk about our strategies and what we do as far as an arrest and how we prevent and how the crime numbers go up and down. The crime is always going to be a part of our story, whether it's up or down is depending on how you look at it. We do several things in an attempt to take the underlying situations that could lead to potential crime or potential violence and assaults. A couple of things we do: we take a look twice a month at our community calls for service. Not going to be a screen on this; you just have to bear with me and listen. We take a look at community calls for service, and what we do with that is we take out all the traffic stops, all the initiated stops, and we look at exactly what the community is calling us about. We take those and we make a map of that. We then take a look at that 28-day period and we compare it to the previous 28-day period. When you look at it just as a density map, what you see is two maps that look very alike. What we then do is we map them on top of each other and we look for the increases and decreases and where the community is calling us to. As a result of those increases and decreases, that's where we might deploy our quality of life details. We also, as a result of that analysis, we look at any resident or any location that has more than 9 calls over a 28-day period. And if any location has more than 9 calls, we take a look at why are we going to that house? Why are we going to that address? For example, it might be a convenience store where we're continually responding for a burglar alarm. In that case, we will take our NEU officers and have them go speak to the owner of their store. Maybe they're having an electrical problem. Maybe they have a problem with the mice setting off the alarm. We look to ways to prevent us from going back to these addresses over and over again. Another example would be there might be somebody who has just recently moved into an address who is suffering from a mental health crisis. If we identify that, we'll send our crisis intervention team along with the Albany County Mobile Crisis Unit over to see how we can assist them better so we don't have to keep going back to that house before it turns into something worse than it already is. We found domestic issues that way, and we're able to provide assistance to people through our domestic unit and our intake specialists who work closely with our domestic unit. We've found neighbor troubles where we send our neighborhood engagement over to explain, go back and forth what's going on, and we try to help alleviate the problem so we don't go back to that house over and over again, and that thus frees up our officers to be out on patrol and doing the job they're supposed to be doing. One of the initiatives we have, and we've been doing this for a couple of years now, is we take a look at all abandoned houses in the city, all calls for abandoned houses over a course of a month. If there's a call for people breaking into a house or abandoned or unsecure building, we take a look at those calls. We give that to our neighborhood engagement unit, and they in turn respond to that address to make sure, 1, it's secure, and 2, that nobody is living or residing within that building. We do that on a monthly basis. The idea is to hopefully not have the same address on it month after month after month. And we keep those buildings closed up and secured. One of the biggest problems we have in Albany, not one of the biggest, but one of the problems we do have is the after-hour parties or of the establishments that are hosting parties after hours, late into the mornings, and that usually ends up in situations that could end up in with bad results. So we take a look at all loud music calls in the city between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. We put those on a map. We look at that month after month and compare. Now, they might not be exactly calling to the address, but then we can check with the officers who are working midnight shift. They say, oh, yeah, I know what that is. That's this house. That's this address. And we then, in turn, send our neighborhood engagement unit to that residence, speak to the owner, and if we catch them in the act of having a party, we break it up and then bring in code enforcement and see if there's any citations that can be issued, like a seatbelt web. So, and the last thing we do, and it really goes to I don't know if anybody else in the around or in the state does this. We take a look at conflict analysis. Conflict analysis is something we started about 3 or 4 years ago. The idea of conflict analysis is you look at certain types of calls in the city and try to prevent the shooting before it happens. So we look at dice games. Dice games are always contentious in the city of Albany or anywhere because of the nature with money. We look at person annoying, group annoying, drug dealers, fights, person with a weapon. All calls like that, we throw them on a map and we look at the density to see where they're occurring. With that, we then deploy manpower, whether it's through the GIVE grant or other resources to that area. We often use our partners with probation and parole to conduct home visits in that area. So we can see what's going on, what in that area is causing so much conflict. And then we try to stop it before it happens. And then as far as the rest of the summer, we will continue to deploy our resources and leveraging our partners to address these issues, plus several other strategies that we do deploy. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deputy Chief Foley. And as you can see, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. We see numbers, and the numbers go up and down, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And Deputy Chief Foley and Commander Cornell and Commander Harrington and Commander Gibson are doing a great job of preventing issues in our city. Those are the things that can't get headlines, because how do you prove that things aren't happening? But the fact of the matter is, with the great work that these men and women are doing, we're actually preventing issues from happening in our city. So great job to all of them involved in that. And now I want to talk about our federal partnerships, because we can't do this by ourselves. You all know that we have partnerships at the local level. We have state level partnerships, but we also have some very, very important federal level partners that help us, that have helped us to take guns off the street, helped us to prosecute some of these individuals who have been committing violence in our city, helped us to take these individuals off the streets. And so I want to first bring up the FBI Special Agent in Charge, Craig Tremoroli, to talk about what his agency is doing to help the city of Albany.
Thank you, Chief. It's an honor to stand here with you all in a true show of the incredible partnerships we share. The work and collaboration that takes place every day drives our mission of protecting the American people and upholding the Constitution. There's no doubt we've seen an alarming increase in violent crime across the country. Drug trafficking and gun violence are occurring at an appalling rate. These crimes are impacting our local communities, innocent people right here in Albany. Together, we will attack this issue utilizing every resource at the federal, state, county, and local agencies. Through our Safe Streets Task Force, which includes APD, in addition to numerous local, county, state, and federal agencies, we're able to share real-time intelligence and work investigations closely with our partners at every level to keep our community safe. Sometimes that means we're assisting our partners with the resources needed to ensure their cases are as strong as possible, regardless of the charging venue. Those resources range from investigative and intelligence resources and personnel to technical and forensic capabilities. The partnerships on display here today really are the key to success for all agencies working together to reduce violent crime. As I'm sure most people know, working cases at the federal level are incredibly methodical and take time. That's because our efforts are focused on dismantling criminal enterprises at the highest level. But our investigations run parallel with APD and the incredible work that they do each and every day. Amongst our agencies, there's an immediate open line of communication through our task force officers, who are integrated on our FBI-led task forces, sharing relevant intelligence back to APD, ensuring investigators have all the information they need to hold those accountable. For our community members residing in neighborhoods where gun trafficking and drug trafficking are on a rise, I encourage you to reach out to us with any information you think might be useful. Partnerships are not just law enforcement and prosecutors. It's also with you, the community. Together, we can reverse the increase in violent crime. I know it can be intimidating, but your voice matters. You can always reach out to us anonymously through 1-800-CALL-FBI or going to tips.fbi.gov. The FBI is here in the community, and we remain committed to engaging and collaborating with APD and our partners to keep the community safe. Thanks, Chief.
All right, thanks, Greg. And also, we also have an important partnership with the ATF. And this is critical as well because majority of our homicides are committed with firearms. We're seeing firearms that have illegally possessed firearms that have caused trauma and pain, death in our community. So this partner is from an agency, a federal agency that is right in the trenches of this war against these illegally possessed weapons that have infiltrated the streets of cities across this country. So now I'll call up ATF New York Acting Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Mark Meeks.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Meeks. I'm the Acting Assistant Special Agent in Charge of ATF New York. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. ATF is a federal agency charged with investigating firearms trafficking and is at the forefront of combating violent gun crime committed in our communities. ATF's experience in investigating all forms of firearms crime allows us to act as a force multiplier for our law enforcement partners, to provide expertise in areas involving emerging threats, such as privately manufactured firearms and machine gun conversion devices. However, we cannot solve this problem alone. The strategy to impact violent crime reduction must be a comprehensive partnership with federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. It's crucial for success. ATF accomplishes this in 3 specific ways. First, direct investigative support and federal adoption of cases as appropriate. Second, technical expertise and training regarding firearms investigations. And lastly, crime gun intelligence sharing and analysis. Working with the City of Albany Police Department, ATF has set in place a working relationship that is able to leverage the strengths of both our agencies. ATF has sponsored an Albany detective to be a full-time task force officer who has complete access to all of ATF's investigative, intelligence, and laboratory resources, furthering and enhancing their firearms investigations. Additionally, the task force officer working with our local ATF office has the ability to charge a suspect in federal court should a federal firearm violation be uncovered. ATF has trained more than 200 federal, state, and local law enforcement professionals in how to identify PMFs and machine gun conversion devices. These items are a growing concern, and ATF is at the forefront, educating our partners in recognition of these items and the legal issues attached to their use and possession. ATF, through its relationship with the Albany PD and the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services, has stood up a national integrated ballistic information network acquisition station directly within the footprint of the Albany Police Department headquarters. This NIBIN machine allows Albany PD to generate actionable leads that can link shootings with recovered firearms in as little as 8 hours. This is a critical tool in investigating shootings and other firearms-related crimes. The illegal flow of firearms is not a victimless crime. It is fueling the violence on the streets we live and work on every day. ATF, working hand in hand with our federal, state, and local partners, work diligently every day to make our communities safer. This is not just a job to us, it's a calling. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Chief. And thank you to Mark and Craig, and thank you to all the hard work that our Deputy Chief and our commanders and everybody else in the Albany Police Department is doing. And with that, that concludes our presentation, and we're here to answer any questions, any of us who are here, that you may have.
Yes. A quick question on gun recoveries. I think if I remember the numbers you presented, you guys are at a more than 2 guns for every gun arrest. well ahead of last year. We talked a little bit about this before, but again, is there any more indication on, are you guys seeing large-scale drug trafficking in the area, or is these, basically, why is the number of arrests so much lower than the number of guns?
You want to talk about that, Ben?
There were a couple of seizures of guns from one or two individuals that have significantly increased that number.
So they had
Yeah.
large cash.
Yes, yes.
Were those, sorry, one follow-up to those. Can you speak as to whether those were homemade firearms, or were they guns that were trafficked from state?
That is, I believe, still under investigation.
Chief, are there any specific proactive measures and, in something you're concentrating on that, as the summer begins, the summer violence season, anything special you're looking for, be it, street crime, dirt bikes?
One critical piece of this is community involvement, because what we found is that the more we can get our community involved and our community engaged, and having key members of our community touching certain areas of our community, particularly those areas where we may have some challenges, that does a tremendous amount of help for us. And so we've partnered with groups like the Albany Community Land Trust Gun Violence Initiative Group. There's a new group out there that's underneath that umbrella called Men on a Mission. This group is committed to having men in this community step up and be a part and be more engaged and be a part of the solution to what's happening. If an act of violence happens in our community, there's a high likelihood, high probability it's probably a young man who committed it. And so our young men need to see men in the community as role models, men who are doing positive things, men who will have the courage to step up to some of these young men and say, those behaviors are inappropriate. And so with all of these law enforcement strategies, which are critical, an equally critical piece of this is trying to do what we can to galvanize and inspire our community to help us out with this. And so far, we've had a lot of people stepping up. We've got a group, 100 Black men of Albany County, who've done a lot of things in terms of helping us in some of our challenged communities address some of these things. And so that piece is critical. And you talk about some of the quality of life things that come up, because we hear a lot about the shootings. We hear a lot about when a homicide occurs, but we also hear a lot about quality of life things. If there are unhoused individuals who are making folks uncomfortable because of some behaviors, if we have aggressive panhandling, if we have individuals who are shooting up illegal substances in public spaces, all of those things cause an equal amount of anxiety in our community. And so we're doing a lot with those as well, working with the county to address some of those issues and doing some things internally in terms of looking at some of our hot spots and things like that. So it's kind of a comprehensive effort that's looking at all aspects of this issue, these challenges that we're seeing in major cities like we're in now.
Chief, can you hit on the recent attacks on elderly people that recently been caught on ring cameras locally?
Repeat that question.
The elderly being attacked, footage from ring cameras. Is there an ongoing problem with that or a concern?
Well, it's a concern. Anytime we have anyone who's attacked, and we have some unprovoked act of violence in our city is a huge concern. Now, with respect to some of those specific instances that you're talking about, what I'm going to do is turn it over to either Vin or Chris, if you guys want to talk about the recent investigations involving those attacks.
Yeah, we had a couple incidents. Again, it is a traumatic thing, and especially when a person that can't defend themselves is caught in a situation. They are active investigations. We think we do have good investigative leads, and I don't think it's a crime series or anything more than a crime opportunity, and saw somebody that was a victim and decided to commit an act. But we are in a good spot.
Do you have any tips for our viewers that can possibly prevent this?
Yeah, I mean, as most as possible, don't walk alone. I know that's hard. People are busy and have to go about their days. These cameras are great. Not only do they capture crime, but they also deter a lot of crime. Currently right now we're investing in more and more technologies in terms of that, stay in well-lit areas. People got to watch their surroundings, when you're going to the bank, there could be people, if there's something that's suspicious, that doesn't seem right to you, somebody, in a bank parking lot for a while and is waiting for people to use the ATM and potentially follow them from a grocery store. Don't ever be afraid to call. We have units that are generally close by and can get there. And if it's nothing, it's nothing. But we would rather prevent an incident than have to investigate one.
Thank you.
On the recent homicide arrests of those two men in the fatal stabbing, is there anything that you can tell us about in terms of what led up to that, what the core of that dispute was?
We know that there were some sort of dispute between the victim and these suspects involved in this, and we knew it was some sort of fight that was involved. Beyond that, I don't know if there's much more that we have with that. Anything else to add with that, Ben or Chris? Still an active investigation, but great piece of investigative work because we started with not a lot. It was early in the morning. We were investigating another assault. Didn't even know that the victim who died didn't even know that he was even a part of this. And they got diverted over and it brought to the attention of this other victim. And they had nothing to start with. And we had a little bit of video, but not much. And it was just a tremendous amount of investigative work and time, community help that helped us to get enough to make some arrests and bring some closure to this. So we don't have much more to add to that beyond that, but it was some sort of dispute. We just don't know at this point. At least I don't know at this point exactly, what that dispute was about.
Another thing, you talk a lot about partnerships and the importance of working together with other agencies. The county sheriff has upped their presence in the city over the past year. Were they invited to this? And can you tell me what the city's plan is for cooperating with them this summer?
Every summer, we since I've been chief, we've had partnerships and collaborations with not just the county, but with the state police, as well as other local law enforcement agencies. And but we talk about that all the time. And I think it's very well known that we have these partnerships and collaborations. And in our county law enforcement agency, our sheriff's department, they have countywide jurisdiction. They have an ability to look at trends that are occurring in different cities, in towns in the county of Albany, and so they can kind of connect some dots that we can't. So that partnership is critical for us. But we also have this partnership with the state police and obviously they have statewide jurisdiction. They've helped us out tremendously. With some violent crimes, with some traffic-related crimes, with presence in our communities, and what we wanted to accomplish with this press conference today is to show, because we hardly ever talk about the impact and the influence that our federal partners have with helping us with some of the things that we're seeing. It's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that they're doing. Our federal partners, they don't come and say, hey, we want to be in front of the TV and we want to let her, they tell us all the time that we're just here. We want to be behind the scenes. You guys take all the credit if you want. We don't care. We just want the problems to go away. And so they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And we thought this was appropriate to at least let the community know that particular part of law enforcement is also a heavy influence in our city as well. But to answer your question, yes, our county sheriff, our state police, they have integral parts of us doing what we need to do, always collaborating and partnering with them as well.
Question for the, especially for the ATFs.
Yes.
Could you, you mentioned, like, forgive me if I get the name wrong, the National Integrated Ballistics.
Information network.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what that is and how that works and benefits local law enforcement agencies?
Yeah, certainly. So it's basically a high resolution camera. And what it does is it takes images of shell casings that are recovered from streets where shootings occur, and also test fire shell casings that come from recovered guns. And then it puts them into this digitized format. And then there's a computer that actually does an analog search or a digital search, as to say, and compares it. And then it can generate a lead and say, okay, this gun was most likely, this shell casing rather, was most likely fired from this gun. So that gives us the ability to link shootings. So multiple shootings with a single gun or multiple guns involved in one shooting. So that's something that's here, that's relatively novel. It's only been on board for online for about 2 years here in the Albany Police Department's area. And it's accessible and available to every state, federal, and local agency.
Where does Albany fit in the realm of when the ATF is looking at gun trafficking and the like? Is it more of a focus on Albany than surrounding cities like Schenectady, Troy?
Well, no, I don't think it's anything particular. I think it's where the gun's recovered, and we follow the gun. So a lot of what ATF does is all intelligence based. So what we're trying to accomplish is we're not a big agency. We're a small agency. We have to use our intelligence so that we can focus our efforts and be more efficient in our investigations. So it's basically, where are the guns recovered, and in our area, and then where is their source. And so we work in conjunction with the Albany Police Department, the Schenectady Police Department, the Troy Police Department, all local law enforcement agencies. My office has task force officers from 8 different local agencies, sheriff's departments, local police departments, the Department of Corrections. So we have a very comprehensive group of people, or a diverse group of people, where we can affect the greatest amount of area so that we can combat firearms trafficking.
I'm just wondering if there's an update on hiring the social workers within APD?
Yeah, we're getting close. Our plan is to hire a social worker supervisor to oversee the group of social workers, and we're in the final phases of doing that. From what I understand, there's a lot of interest in the position, at the actual social worker position. And so once we get that social worker supervisor in place, then it should flow very quickly in terms of filling out at least the first phase of the social workers. We're very excited about that program. All right, thank you.